Hi again, everyone. In my last clip, I talked about the step one, set parameters, how to do it, and some tips and tricks. So now that you've done that, you're ready for step two, the exchange of perspectives. The idea in the exchange of perspectives is to hear and to be heard, the only two things that need to happen. It's always good to set the expectation around the content of the perspectives to be exchanged. In a small group or team, small board meeting, you might set the expectation that let's talk about how we see this situation and what do we think are the important things that we need to pay attention to when we get to generating options later. Now, if instead you're in a small conversation of a couple of people about a particular situation and how you've been impacted or how they've been impacted, then it's different. Then the conversation is about let's exchange perspectives on how we saw this situation unfolded and how we've each been impacted. The next question is easy in a group. Who goes first? Start at your right, start at your left, start halfway around the table. Either of those, any of those works. Pick one and continue in one direction, or invite someone to start the conversation off. When it's two people, there's typically a logical sequence in terms of who probably should go first. If that isn't the case, then just toss it out there. Hey, do you want to go first, or would you rather that I go first? Either of those works really well. Now, whether you're the first speaker or whether you're the listener, you have an opportunity to model the behavior that you want to see in the conversation, and that is conducive to collaboration. Let's start with if you're the listener, since that seems to be the part that most people struggle with. If you're the listener, then this is an opportunity to express curiosity, listen to learn, ask questions to gather more information from them about their experience and their perspective. How do you do that? You use what I would call curiosity queries. So instead of asking why, which will usually get you a defensive response, ask something like, can you talk more about that? Can you help me to understand? How would that work as you see it? Things like that will get you a lot more information and avoid the defensive response that usually accompanies the question why. When they have told you how they see the situation and how they've been impacted, it's important to paraphrase back. One, so that they know you heard them, and two, so that you know you heard them correctly. When you're paraphrasing back, you might not get it right. And what happens if you don't? If you don't, simple. Stop. Oh, I didn't hear you correctly then. Try me again. Or, I didn't hear you correctly. I think I'm missing that kind of thing. And again, use those curiosity queries to help them to explain more about their perspective so that you understand the whole picture that they're conveying. When you do have it correctly, like when you've heard them correctly, the message, when you're receiving the message that they're intending to send, you'll get affirmation. They'll say things back like, yeah, that's right. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Yes, you understand perfectly. Those kinds of things. The worst two words, maybe it's more than two, the worst words to convey that you understand someone else is to say, I understand. That means nothing. It tells them nothing, and it gets you back nothing. You don't know that you understand. You know that you think you understand, and they know that you think you understand, and could be 100% off base. Been there, done that, doesn't work. What else can you do while you're listening? Well, remember we talked in the overview about the idea that at step 4, you're going to identify the things that are important to you or the underlying interests. Part of what you can do while you're listening is making a little note. Oh, sounds like X is important to them. Y is important to them, and so on. The other thing that you can do is you can start to figure out what you're going to need for step 3, which is how are you going to describe the issue? Remember that in step 3, you're going to be setting out a how to do A and B type of issue statement. And it's going to be broad, and it's going to be neutral, and it's going to reflect the main theme of what they're talking about and the main theme of what you're talking about. So at this step, while you're listening, you can start to figure out, so what's the key piece here for them? And it probably goes without saying, and I won't take a chance on that you really want to resist the urge to prepare a rebuttal to what you're hearing from them. What you hear from them ought not to change hardly a bit of what you are going to say when it becomes your turn to speak. And what if you're the speaker? So if you go first, then use neutral language. Take the time to figure out how you want to express yourself neutrally. I'll provide more tips on how to find the neutral language to describe the situation, event, or behavior in as neutral a phraseology as you can. If you're speaking first, make sure that you're consistent with the parameters that you set in step 1. If you both agreed, okay, we're going to take 5 minutes here each, then keep it to 5 minutes. If it's 2 minutes, it's 2 minutes. Whatever you agreed to, stick to. And check to ensure that they're hearing what you're saying. Same kind of thing. Okay, so are you with me? What are you getting from what I'm saying right now? Those kinds of things, absolutely essential to ensure that they're hearing what you're trying to convey. Step 2 is a relatively simple step. Be heard, make sure you hear. Step 1, set it up to be that way. You have momentum, keep it going. And next, you're going to be ready for how to describe the issue. And that's going to be the subject of the next clip that I do. Stay tuned.